Let's move on to your Kemper.
Okay.
As we've kind of elaborated beforehand with our plan, was that you are kind of the guy that knows a little bit more of the nuts and bolts, the zeros and ones that go into the Kemper setup.
Correct.
So talk to me about how you have going on and maybe more of a broader philosophy of how your particular settings and patches work with the rest of the band and the other two guys.
So, yeah, I do all the profiling for the band, like all the captures and stuff like that. And, you know, most of the time, all three of us are kind of playing the same patch, and which is fine, but, why not change it up some?
Yeah.
So Ben and Alex are both using a patch I made with it was a Mesa Rev G, but the preamp section going into the power section of a diesel Herbert. And so you have that massive power section of the Herbert, and it just turned out really cool. It was a 16. The mic was a 16 ohm. It was on a 16 ohm Marshall voiced V30, and it was just a 57. And then mine, I did right before I left. I had an EVH head, like the regular 6L6 one.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't use it that much, but let's really dig into this head because I haven't used it in a long time. And my brother Aaron, he collects a lot of old vintage like electronics, and he had this set of Mullard EL37-2s, which are 6L6s. They're just from forever ago.
Really? I've never heard of 37s.
It's EL37s. They're a 6L6 variant.
Okay.
And they sound incredible. I was like, okay, these are rated close enough. I can throw them in here and see how they sound. And that head, they sounded incredible. So I profiled it through this is crazy. People's heads probably explode when I say this, but like I have a Marshall 1960 vintage cab,
okay.
but I put 2004 Mesa 8 ohm voice V30s inside of it. So, the Marshall cabs are wired 16 ohm. So It's an 8 ohm wired Marshall cab with those Mesa voice V30s in it.
So watch what you're plugging into with
Well,
terms
of
of like
course,
the
I always
ohmage.
tape everything, and I put things over it. No,
Yeah.
write no really big. That was a, the Fredman technique with the 257s.
Yeah.
Like that one. This tone I'm using is that tone with those two mics, and just to have something a little different. And so I'm running that, and Alex and Ben are running the diesel Mesa Frankenstein one. So,
yeah.
So I get pretty into it,
No, I got to ask, because you brought him up earlier, is Mark, you guys had a relationship with him as a producer and kind of like an extra member of the band since, 2011, 2012 with the self-titled record?
Well, he even New Era, he was doing drums on that too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So how does how does he incorporate to increase and benefit your sound? And I'm sure that's studio, but it also probably has to translate here too.
Well, absolutely, because Mark and I, he'll be here tonight too. If you guys
really?
Yeah. He's one of my best friends, dude. I love the guy to death, and we send stuff back to each other all the time, like, check out this, blah, blah, and we're just always talking shit to each other. And the guy has learned a lot from me, but vice versa, I think, with him experimenting, or my experimenting, he's learning, stuff from me too. I'm not afraid to say that. I've learned a lot from Mark. He's like, I don't think he'd say he took me under his wing or anything like that. It's more just I've developed on my own, because everything I've done is because of the band.
Yeah.
And then being able to be around people like Mark and Jason Sukoff and David Castillo, who mixed the last two albums over in Sweden. Even he's like a wealth of knowledge, and he's super great. So just having them around and just seeing what they do, and I'm not a fan of ripping shit off, but seeing what they do gives you ideas to be like, oh, that makes sense. Now I can do it my way.
How can I apply it to my way?
How can I apply it? Exactly. So it's been very beneficial having Mark around for that. As far as the albums go, Mark and I we'll spend a week on speakers.
Wow.
For an album. I'm not kidding. We'll swap out speakers, cabs, everything. And during that process, you learn stuff. It's invaluable knowledge no matter what, because now you know how speakers sound in certain cabs and how they don't sound, et cetera, et cetera. And then you really learn what you don't like and what you like. So, and so that saves time in the future, because you're not having to, try the same speaker in the same cab again that you won't like. So,
Yeah.
But, because we always lean towards a certain tone, and it's I know for a fact I'm not going to like a certain setup versus another one. So.
It's just all knowledge, and you're just absorbing it.
Yes.
So then, you have a Rolodex of things that you've already know, so you can move on to the next idea.
It's that, and doing the albums with Whitechapel will just help out, expand that even more, because I do all, I record at home, I do bands and stuff at home as well, but so on top of, most of my learning honestly comes from me doing other bands. I mean, when I say learning, I always had the white belt mentality. Always trying to learn, no matter what. No matter how good I get, there's always something I can learn. So
I know we have to cruise to the other three guys,
Yeah.
but man, I do really appreciate, because oftentimes heavy music and heavy players of heavy music get kind of wrangled into, oh, it's just one mode and it's all gain. Like,
Yeah.
you prove that there is a nuance to your craft, and you are swimming in deep waters, my friend.
Yeah, that's the point, and that's what, like, a lot of these new heads, they're plug and play. Like, you know, that you can get a low tune guitar plug in, it's like sounds good right away, and that's great, man. Some sound killer, but I want to be able to dial in my head. I want to be able to plug in and not be like, okay, I got to do things to make this sound the way I want it to sound. I want to sculpt it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And plug and play works sometimes, but I want the option of a ton of ungodly, awful low end that I can use just in case. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like I don't want it to not be there. So.